good to hear you.
Good to hear you too. And hello, Breton. Brian and I have talked about you
lovely to meet you.
Brian and I have talked about you in the past. Now, whether we've said good things or bad things, I'm not going to tell you.
I hope it's not the latter.
But this is exciting. Brian, you know how much I love talking to you about all your projects.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
And you know how much I love Yellowstone.
Yeah, for sure.
But now I have to ask you the big question, even if it's off the record. Do we have a premiere date for season 4?
They'll air sometime.
Thanks. What a pal.
It will air in the future.
Oh,
does that help?
You're hilarious. You're hilarious.
Yeah, we can't say.
Oh my.
We can't say what it is.
Oh my God. Everybody's heartbroken that it's not going to be this Sunday on Father's Day, which is when all the others have premiered.
Yeah, is that true? Gosh, that's right. It was June 21st last year, I think.
Yep. Yep. Seasons 1, 2, and 3 all premiered on Father's Day Sunday.
That's right. Yeah, it's all like that third week. That's right. That's I do remember that. That's interesting.
Yeah. And, I mean, all the fan bases, everybody was figuring, okay, it was going to be the 20th.
I mean, it's great. It's like, I love that that the enthusiasm behind it is great. And we can't wait for people. I mean, we can't wait.
Yeah, I'm dying. I want to see a wedding. I want to hear the music you guys put together for a wedding. There better be a wedding. I'm telling you now. There better be. But I am really curious because you guys submitted episode 1 of season 3 for Emmy consideration right now, correct?
Yeah.
What led you both to episode 1? Because this year you really expanded the musical construction. In the past, you set the stage in season 1. We heard trains in the background. We heard, things developing, the Old West idea and man coming in and taking it from the Indians. And all of this through your instrumentation and construction was so well planned out. Now, in season 3, it's like we've got violence begets violence. Everything gets turned on its head. We've got bikers coming and tearing up a pasture. We've got Rourke showing up. We've got Teeter getting trampled in a creek by horses. And then we conclude with explosions. It's like the most bombastic scene yet. So how do you pick an episode to submit for Emmy? Guys.
It's really impossible. I mean, the fact is that each season 1, 2, and 3 are really long form films that are a whole. So it's almost like watching, just choosing what part to drop in and watch, and it's almost like with You're the Indian Now, which is the first of 3. It's like of season 3, it kind of sets the table for what's going to happen, and almost like story-wise, if you're familiar with 1 and 2, it kind of brings you into that world and the idea of, the idea that like this story is starting to change in a direction that's going to be for the rest of the season. And musically, we started establishing those things pretty early.
And you really do that beautifully, starting with, A New Morning. That is so stunning, guys. I've got to tell you, the elements that you bring in there as we're waking up with them. Tate's back. He's been rescued. Everybody is safe inside the ranch. And it goes through very slowly. And you bring in, some soft tremolo. You've got guitar. You've got Western twangs. Sounds like you're using steel guitar this go round, and maybe even a maraca kind of beat. And it's just so beautifully done. It's very hopeful, and yet there's sorrow at the same time. It's really one of your prettiest pieces.
it really starts off with that, with that violin, that fiddle, and it has like that kind of daybreak, that lilting, sadness to it. Like there's like melancholy but hope at the same time. And like I think so much of Yellowstone, that things that makes it great, that like Brett and I really attach ourselves to musically are these ideas of like two emotions at once, which is, I think, what like melancholy is, that like kind of is really two emotions. It's not really one in a sense. You it's like there's like that bit of regret, bit of joy. It's kind of it has a much more complex tone to it, and in something like that, there's also a lot of space in it. The writing, I think, for this is really kind of that melodic, emotionally resonant style that has a ton of space, and it's kind of like the silences and the pauses between the bars where the music is not crowded in any way, and it kind of just like, also Taylor lets it just like flow over themes, and certainly A New Morning is really the way, and that is really how to us one of our favorites, and certainly a way to introduce people to the tone that's going to be Yellowstone season 3.
Yeah, I think it's A New Morning. It's one of my favorite pieces that you've done out of all 3 seasons, and it is because of that breathing. And even if you're just now watching the show, if this is the first episode you ever see, you really, musically, you give us with this piece, what it's like to wake up in the morning after the night before, the calm, the visuals mirror the music so beautifully with sunrise coming up, and we move from person to person as to how their day is starting. It's a wonderful piece musically because there's no dialogue in this section. It's just images in your music, and it's really exquisite, and I love it. But this episode, correct me if I'm wrong, this one also has your passage Sons. Isn't Sons in this one? Sons is in this one, and it's where, Casey is like apologizing that he will not become, livestock commissioner, and Dutton is there saying, look, I know exactly who you are, don't ever be sorry for it. And with Sons, you also weave in some of the main Yellowstone theme.
Yeah, the original, the main one, is in there for sure, yeah. You've hit upon something there for sure. And that's in I think it's like by episode 3 with the livestock commission. When it's like, I think that's when they start talking about it. I believe. I think it comes up a little bit later. Yeah, but I mean, it starts to develop, and I think the Yellowstone theme is like a tonal theme. It was kind of Dutton centric, but it's like the mythological framework of how these stories and the characters fit together.
It's really like a sort of highlighting the destiny of the characters. It's this kind of theme that sort of hangs over the whole story arc, and pinpoints. When you use it, you have to use it sparingly because it's at moments of great significance for certain characters. So when you bust it out, it really has an important highlight.
I always felt it's kind of like, they're similar. The one kind of analog that I could draw a comparison to in terms of what it does in its series is it's actually the Force theme in Star Wars, that kind of like you only want to use it when something, it kind of has a similar effect on what's happening in the scene and how it relates to characters. So you have to really, when you do it, you need to do it when it is saying something very particular. It kind of has one of those, it has that, like, it takes you back all the way back to the beginning of Yellowstone, the very first piece you heard, and thematically it kind of gets in your head like that, and you start hearing it even when it's not playing. You start it, and so in a sense, sometimes we'll just give it a little bit of a flavor of the first 2-3 notes, and then your brain kind of just continues it on even into the next scene, even if there is no music. It's interesting how that happens.
Is it my imagination, or am I hearing that a bit more in season 3 than I did in season 2? In large part because of the storyline that's developing, because we've always had this running theme about fathers and sons, be it Dutton's father passing it on to him, intending to pass it on to his sons, and then the letter that he had given Rip about, I realize I do have enough sons. So he's now looking at Rip as a son. So, and now there's Tate, who's now growing up and becoming such a big part of John's life. And I'm detecting throughout the season a little bit more of that main theme popping up. Even as you said, Brett, just a few notes. But I'm hearing more of it really infusing us with that omnipresent legacy.
Right.
Because a lot of this season's to do with the future of the ranch. What happens to that, and I think so much about the Duttons is their connection to the land, and and as you were saying, when they're passing on, the legacy of the Duttons, and it has such important history, and I think it felt natural to really highlight that was the theme,
It felt like it was time, and in a sense on 2, we intentionally want to leave space for it, really hoping that the story arc, that we would be continued and all that, and that we would have 3, because so much of it is there really is a long game with how Taylor does things, and so what's kind of coming, and it's wild the way he just writes with such confidence and the sense of holding things back for the right moment, instead of trying to just kind of like, we're at this early episode, we need to do this and this and this to keep people the way the drama arc goes is so natural from the perspective of not worrying about, does it need to be this episode or this episode, and to kind of wait till 3 to bring back more of the theme was deliberate.
Well, and this is where your music works so beautifully with this series, is because Taylor is the slow burn kind of drama guy, be it in his standalone films, as you well know, Brian. Those Who Wish Me Dead, and even his earlier works. He's that slow burn guy, but the music is what really brings us. It makes the emotion bubble while we're waiting to see where this slow burn is going. And, we pick that up with your wrangling motif, which is great. Through the season, you've got all the Rip and Beth motifs happening. But one of the really interesting ones that you have, and I think it's here in episode 1, is the lingering trauma, Tate's nightmares. And he's got that campfire conversation with John about the soup of reality and made up, and how you determine what your dreams are going to be. And it's very lingering trauma. It's really haunting, and I really like that piece.
Brett?
Yeah, because it has a theme in that quite a lot, doesn't it, on the cello? I think, again, it's talking about, the future of each character, and their place in this world, and where they're going to go next, and what their responsibilities are, I guess, as humans.
Mm-hmm. How do the two of you collaborate on the music for Yellowstone? in terms of writing, in terms of ideas and emotions, and then the instrumentation, which is, Brian, I still maintain, I think you are one of the best composers around when it comes to instrumentation and writing with specific instruments in mind for the arrangement. So I'm curious about your collaboration in developing this incredible scoring.
Oh, thanks. I mean, that's so cool to hear. I like, it's something that's really important. I think the texture, the timbre, the sound of what's playing melody is as important as the melody itself. That's the voice, is the way it gets into your soul, And so when looking at Yellowstone being so specifically live instrumentation and very particular instruments like dulcimers and bouzouki and dobros and kind of these cello and whatnot. All these different instruments, I wanted to work with someone that really had a very similar way of looking at things, which is in terms of instruments, and I find it's I don't know many people really that have kind of a love of that timbral difference in how a note is played on different instruments like Breton. And we have such the great thing is we play so many of the same instruments and we record live ourselves that also the knack of doing music that is emotion first. Like, I don't hide in the corners and try to be too cool for school, where you kind of say you really hold back in a way where sometimes I think it's easier as a composer to just kind of not say anything, because then you can't get criticized. It's like the nail. It's like the hammer knocks the nail that sticks out, right? It's like often when you're talking about doing commerce and art combined, when you do your art, if you do something that's really like very emotionally resonant or whatever, if someone is looking at it critically, like an executive or something like that, it might be that would be the thing to be noticed and then rounded off. But Taylor protects us so much as artists, and so the fact that Brett and I have this very similar love of showing the emotion and speaking with the music in a way that says something is what drew me to him, and our process is just great because I can work on something and send it to him and back and forth, and we're like, oh, it's just like a natural. It's almost like being in a band, really. Which I love, because I miss that too.
Yeah. So Brett, what are your thoughts on this collaboration with Brian?
I think it's great. I mean, we've worked on a couple of projects before, and I think each time it's like there's that familiarity with each other's style and vibe, and I think exactly what Brian was saying is that back and forth, has this kind of expanding of ideas, and we're each trying to push the boundaries of each other's writing and
right.
Try something new each time, and so I think it's really fun to just kind of push each other into different areas, and not really think, oh, is this going to work, and then show it to Brian and he loves it, and I think it's a really fun creative space to be in, I think.
Yeah, you can kind of also in the sense that being Brett such an amazing musician and composer, it is when you're working on something, when you know it's not just going out to the world in a sense, it's just that personal first check on something, knowing that as a musician you kind of want to like impress them too, in a way. So you want to do something that has some really special kind of, if a composer can be kind of like, wow, that does something to me that I didn't expect, it is something that's like a really good bar to be trying to hit, and this creates that.
I'm curious for the two of you, what might have been a surprise to each of you that you came up with musically for season 3? Be it in terms of new instrumentation, or I know I detected a new sound I hadn't heard before. I'm curious if there was a surprise to either one of you that your creativity came up with something that you hadn't even thought of.
Yeah, I think with one of the keys that, Brian would just take it and then add loads of percussion. So it sounds like the swarming kind of chaos of percussion on top of it. And it just really helps with, the what's happening on the screen, if they're, wrangling. And I just thought it was such a cool idea and something that I wouldn't have thought of.
It's interesting because that was the percussion thing that he's leaning onto. There was actually, by design, I don't know if you noticed, but like in terms of actual percussion, like instruments that are meant to be percussion, we avoided those by design in the first 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really season. It was like, okay, I think it's time that we can do this. And this is something we talk about with Taylor. It's like these, so a lot of the percussion the first season, it sounded like percussion. There were instruments that weren't actually percussion instruments. It would be like hitting the side of a cello, or like turning a charango over and playing the back of it, or like hitting piano strings with the hammer, or things like that. And so that kind of like that, really learning and going into finding percussive instruments that weren't percussion was part of developing it. And then when kind of the restriction was like opened up, because of what season 3 is, because of the story, then it all of a sudden becomes much more rich. And percussion and things, not even like what you think of as like hitting something, like for instance, like bowing, taking a cello bow and bowing like certain metals and things create these like howling, almost vocal sounds that are very unusual that start appearing in season 3 as well.
Yeah, and I noticed that, and the percussion was a big thing. And you know me, Brian, I go through every single motif, and I write notes next to each one as to what I'm hearing and what's standing out. And I have never written, and I went back to my old notes from season 1 and season 2. I never wrote percussion so many times as I did for the music for season 3. And I think a lot of it is because we get into something like the herding horses, the fuck it scene, and the percussion, it's really playing well akin to horses' hooves. And, even where we've got, Teeter being trampled in the water, here again, we're hearing percussion and unique sounds. You've got one really unique sound, and I hear it in your Rourke motif, and also particularly in one other one as well. And it sounds like a branch and leaves, like a whipping sound, like you're hitting a branch, like a birch branch with leaves on something, almost like a whip crack. And it's the coolest sound.
Is it the Bartok pizzas, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, Bartok bits. Yeah. So pizzicato, the Bartok developed a technique that's this kind of it sounds like
a string on.
Yeah, it's like a lot of string players like pulling on the string and letting it like hit it hits the fingerboard, and it kind of is like, right, it's like
sounds like a whip.
Yeah, it sounds like a whip. It means literally because it's like it is, the string is like it boom, and so and you do it all at once, and you can do it at different varying speeds, like snap, 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 snap,
mm-hmm.
and you can do it like really quick. So you're picking up on something that is almost like it's like alliteration. It's or onomatopoeia for a music instrument. You have kind of, it is doing literally what a whip would do.
Yeah, because I hear it in Lingering Trauma, where it's slowed down and it's more subtle, and then in the Rourke, and then
quietly.
In the Rourke motif, it's a breakout there. It comes in right after a kind of noise. It's almost like a weasel sneaking in a back door. I know.
Yeah.
Brett would die if he saw any of my notes about how I describe some of these, the emotions that you guys create with sounds. But, at the end of the day, now, when it comes to episode 1, which is what the Emmy voters have to look at, unless they're smart and they've seen the whole series and they know the breadth of your work, what is it that for each of you, that makes this episode, You're the Indian Now, stand out musically for each of you?
Go ahead, Brett.
I think it's about restraint out of everything, because we're yes, it's a new day, but there is so much history with the series, and things have happened to the family that will possibly scar them for a long time, and it causes rifts in the family. And I think with the music, especially, what we wanted to do is to honor that past and that history, but also show that they're trying to move on with their lives, and in a way, I think doing it with absolute restraint and not hitting it over the head with the audience was quite it took a lot to achieve, I think. And
yeah, I think you want to. It's like you want to say a lot with actually. I think when you're wanting to say a lot with kind of economy of music, and the idea that you also, I mean, it's creating also kind of this looming threat and dread that's about to happen. It's like an origin story for season 3, whereas you're like Brett's right. You're bringing in all the history of what's happened before, but then it is really setting the table more than anything to say, okay, you don't know what's coming, but musically we're going to give you hints, and we're going to lay down a kind of a tonal kind of tapestry that's saying, okay, this is what's coming. And the good thing about music is it doesn't contain spoilers, but it can emotionally tell you what you're in for, and it kind of prepares you in a way, like right before the moment of us really diving in with Freight Trains and Monsters to get you in the mindset of what season 3 is going to be as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Now, aside from episode 1, do you each have a favorite episode from season 3?
Oh boy, I love The World is Purple. This was the last one. I tend to. Probably if you ask me, I really do love final episodes.
Mm-hmm.
The handoff is just. I think maybe that's on my mind because I know what it's how it's leading the audience, and it's kind of exciting to know what's coming. And that is something that just has this really, I think, almost like it has this operatic, like not operatic, but like it has a hitting a high point, and it's like expanding. It kind of just leaves you in this state of emotional freneticism that I think is really great, and not just musically, but I think just as a story.
And what about for you, Brett?
Yeah, I think episode 7, The Beating, just because it starts this story with Jamie. Jamie's one of my favorite characters, and so it just starts this arc with Jamie that has been simmering away throughout the first 2 seasons, but it now starts to, the secrets start to reveal itself, and we get a lot of his reasons behind his behaviors and John's behaviors with him, and I think it starts to show a new theme for Jamie that I get excited about, and I really love.
That's a really cool one. That's a great one. Also, kind of like Yellowstone any time it goes into the past, you start finding out things about Jamie's childhood or anything like that. any character, like a history, there's kind of you get that long historical arc to it that Yellowstone seems to have. It's almost like even from the first episode of season 1, you feel like there's this history to it, like even in the first 2 minutes of the show, and the music always has to feel that way. So, yeah, Jamie's a great example of that, especially now that you start finding out about things about his past. So it's like, I don't know. I think, it's an interesting. That's an interesting one, man. I like that.
Yeah, and this now. Okay. Please tell me the two of you did the music for season 4.
Oh yeah, we're season 4 is coming.
I know. Just keep. Yeah, it's coming. It's in the future. Gee, guys.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait for season 4. Brian, it is always a joy to talk to you. I know that they're going to try and set something up for you and me to talk about some of your other projects. And
Great.
Once it's out, I want to talk to both of you about redeeming love and working with DJ.
Yeah.
I'm
sure. That is a special one.
He is the nicest guy in the world. So I was so excited to see you guys scored for him. So when that comes out, I don't
even know how many movies I've done with him over the years, but many, and he's one of my very closest allies and human beings, and a great artist.
Yeah.
And Redeeming Love is one of the things we're most proud of ever, for sure. Like, and Gil Shaham playing the violin is just, the world's greatest violinist, doing the concertos, for it. It's just incredible.
Well, I can't wait to talk to you guys later in the summer about that. And of course, later on about your special project, Brian.
Yeah, Are We Dreaming?
Yep.
Will do.
I'm dying for it. Well, guys, thank you so much. Brett, it was so great to finally get to meet and talk to you. And
you too. Thanks so much.
Bring on season 4, and we'll chat next year, too.
Yeah, I can't wait for you to see it. I think you're going to love it.
I'm dying. Thank you so much, guys.
All right, take care.
Bye.